Hi folks, the Filipina P here. And today I got something that could be very useful for you guys who are wondering what kind of men we Filipinas really like, as well as the traits and characteristics we don't particularly care for. What do we think about body hair? How do we feel about tattoos? Do we like kissing in public? How important is it that you're a good lover? Will we be turned off if you're bald? If you ask the Filipina you're with, don't expect her to necessarily give you the truth, but the truth is exactly what I'm about to give you here. The good, the bad, and the bald. Hold up! Stop the music. If you like my videos and want my channel to succeed, please take this time right now while you're listening to hit that little thumbs up symbol right below the screen, that red word that says subscribe, and the little bell next to it. You'll not only boost the performance of my videos, but you'll help my channel grow too. It's completely free and guarantees that you'll be offered my next video as well. Now, back to the good stuff. Are you in a long-distance relationship with a Filipina you've never met? Are you already with your Filipina? Maybe you've been married for years. In any case, wouldn't you like to know how to be seen in the best light by the woman you're interested in? Now, not everything about you is gonna give your Filipina the tingles. That's just the way it is for any two people. And here in the Philippines, we have a word for that: reality. But because of our culture and social norms, there are certain things that might be seen differently than where you're from. But before I get going, let me state the obvious, because sure as I'm sitting here, someone's gonna write me a comment that says, "You're so wrong, P. My woman loves it when I snore so loud that I shake the bed." Well, congratulations on being one exception to the rule, sir. And you're a very lucky man indeed. But you need to consider the possibility that it's the only movement your bed is getting, and your Filipina's just too polite to mention it. So yes, the things I'm about to say don't apply to everyone, just the majority of Filipinas. In order to say anything at all, I have to generalize. Just like if someone asks you what do foreign guys like, try answering that one. On a second thought, don't answer that one. I think I already know. So first, let's discuss the physical attributes and how most Filipinas react to them. Since we mentioned body hair, let's start with that. In case you haven't noticed, Asians don't have much body hair. The average Western man has more hair on one arm than an Asian often has on their entire body. So you can imagine how different it is to be with a guy that has a thick mat of back hair. So much that when he's laying on his stomach, he's mistaken for a throw rug. To us, if the body hair is that excessive, it's kind of like dating your dog. While there are exceptions, most Filipinas don't like excessive body hair. But of course, each one of us defines excessive differently. So what about facial hair? The opinions are more split on that one, especially if it's a neatly trimmed beard or mustache. I kind of like it myself. But again, the majority of Filipinas seem to prefer a clean-shaven face. Perhaps just because it's what we're used to. And how about gray hair? Isn't having gray hair a sign of fading virility? Well, tell that to Richard Gere, who's probably gotten more action than an officer or a gentleman. This is one of those cases where a cultural difference makes a difference. To us, gray hair is not only a sign of age, but maturity, which is valued and respected here. So no, gray hair isn't so much of a negative here. And besides, if you don't like it, dye it. What about a guy who's bald? While chrome domery can sometimes be a choice or sometimes be a necessity, it's not regarded as a very attractive look because it's not a common sight here. Most Asians keep at least some of the hair on their heads, even when older, and most of us prefer that our mates do the same thing too. So what do Filipinos think of big muscles? Well, you probably think it's a universally attractive trait, but the fact is, a good percentage of Filipinas are actually intimidated by an overly muscled guy. In the West, women might see a perfect physique as a sign of a narcissistic guy who spends too much time in front of the mirror. But here, it can be seen as intimidating. Gym membership isn't a common thing here, so we're used to seeing men on the slender or less developed side. Not that this is true for all Filipinas, and not that we're attracted to couch potatoes either, but the impressive body you built up in the West might not have quite the same effect here. What about being overweight? Well, as you might be aware, societies that are economically disadvantaged, like mine, often see extra pounds as a show of wealth and status, since it's proof that a person can afford to eat as much as they want, and the extra weight actually becomes an attractive feature. But not here, sorry. Put away those Big Macs and curly fries, because here, fat is seen as fat. Filipinos in general are less judgmental than some societies when it comes to body types. And of course, women in general are less sensitive to physical imperfections. But if you want to make the best impression, lose the fat. Can you wear cologne here without having people try to avoid you in an elevator? Some of you guys like a little splash after you shower and shave, and it's pretty much the same thing here. Some Filipinos like their cologne, and you probably won't repel many Filipinas if you wear yours too. Within reason, please. How about tattoos? Well, they're mostly accepted here, especially when men do it. It's not something you'll see too much of in the local population. It gives off a bad boy image, and since it's considered bad taste in this culture to call attention to yourself, you won't see nearly as much ink as you will in the West. Will your Filipina accept the portrait of Elvis on your back? Probably, but don't ask her to get one. The same thing is true for piercings. Other than pierced ears, you're not liable to see many body parts with holes in them, except the ones you might expect. And while we Filipinas are generally accepting of your piercings, most women I know do not prefer them. And when it comes to genital adornments, that's much more of a Western thing. And if you surprise your Filipina with hoops, rings, or beads down there, be prepared for a bewildered look of shock as her eyes search for the nearest exit. We might not actually complain about it, but it's not something most of us expect or want to see. And while we're in that general area, let me answer a question I get at least once a week. What do Filipinos think about men who aren't circumcised? Well, I know a lot of my viewers still have their little Red Riding Hood, and I don't want to disappoint or upset you, but I'm not known for sugarcoating things. So let me give you my honest tip about the tip. As you probably know, the vast majority of Filipinos had their gift wrapping removed, such that most Filipinas have never encountered anything else. It's not something that repulses us or sends us screaming from the room. It's just something that takes getting used to. That being said, a majority of Filipinas would rather not have to get used to anything new. So now let's talk about a man's personality. Here's where culture plays an even bigger part in what's seen as attractive and what's regarded as obnoxious. My first tip for you guys is not to brag. Talking about your wealth, possessions, or accomplishments is particularly rude and obnoxious in our culture. We might sit there and smile while you discuss that third sailboat you just purchased, but it's only a polite smile, unless of course the woman you're dating is a gold digger. Then it'll be quite genuine, but for all the wrong reasons. We prefer a more humble personality in a man, what we call a cowboy. To us, a cowboy is someone who's low maintenance, who doesn't complain if the chair at the restaurant has a few drops of water on it. Someone who can deal with problems instead of rage against them. And here's another term that might confuse you. If your Filipina calls you strict, it's not a compliment. She's saying that you're too rigid, too orderly, too meticulous. I personally like men who are considered strict. I can just imagine the comments I'll get on that one. But it makes most Filipinos uneasy because they worry about their friends being too noisy for you, or leaving a dirty dish in the sink, or not doing something as well as you think we should. Confidence is attractive, but a controlling personality is not. Just be a cowboy. We also don't like loud people, which might sound hypocritical since everyone knows that Filipinos make more noise than anyone on the planet. But in this case, when we say someone is loud, it's not so much about volume, but their aggressive and confrontational manner. Don't call attention to yourself in public or to your Filipina, and never point your finger at another person. Doing any of these things will embarrass your date and won't go over well. Related to that is our view of cursing. We generally don't like cursing because it's aggressive and disrespectful. A lot of Westerners use the F word like it's a universal adjective that's good for describing anything from getting a speeding ticket to grandma's cookies. Man, those were so effing good. We might not say anything about it, but it embarrasses us, especially where other people can overhear you. So now you know what kinds of men we Filipinos prefer, both physically and personality-wise. But what about a little dating etiquette? Here's a couple tips for you. You have to know this one already, but I still get questions on it. So here goes. Will your date expect you to pay for the evening? Well, unless you're dating a city girl who prefers to pay her own way, the answer is a resounding yes. You'll probably spend more on dinner than she makes in a week, if she has a job. So don't even ask, just pick up the check. Now, you Westerners love to tease or use sarcasm to mean the exact opposite of what you're saying. So have you ever been chatting with your Filipina, said something you thought was particularly witty, only to have your date look at you in horror, or worse, stare at you and not say a word? Well, chances are, she took you literally and seriously. So let me suggest a phrase that, if used quickly enough, can get you out of these sticky situations. Joke lang. It means just kidding. And although you might find it ridiculous that you constantly have to tell your date that you're just teasing, trust me when I say that this phrase should be the first thing you learn after salamat. During your date, avoid asking a lot of probing questions about our past. We don't really like to talk about ourselves other than the basics. But one subject that's really uncomfortable is our past relationships. Local couples usually just agree to pretend we have no past, which is hard to do when you're holding a child in each arm, but we do it anyway. You're just not supposed to ask us about our history. So let's say the date went well. You're strolling along the sidewalk after leaving the restaurant, and you suddenly have an urge to kiss your date. You have a pretty good feeling that she'll be receptive to it. But should you go in for the kiss? Not if you're in public, you don't. We're usually very conservative when it comes to public displays of affection. And although she might go ahead and kiss you, and probably will, you run the risk of embarrassing her. And if you've been paying any attention at all, you know that's not a good thing to do. It's better if you let your Filipina take the lead when it comes to any public gestures. If she's comfortable holding hands, don't worry. Her hand will find yours. Behind closed doors, this situation might be reversed, or maybe not, but let her set her own pace in front of others. Now let's assume that the date, or 2 dates, or heaven forbid 3 dates, went really well, and you're both wanting to pursue a little slap and tickle. You might feel like the pressure's on, and you're up to bat. But just how important is it that you know how to run the bases? Well, there's only one thing that Filipinas hate worse than a fat, hairy, bald guy with tattoos and piercings that constantly curses while they're pointing at you. And that's something we call a chick boy. A chick boy is what you would call a player. Someone with a huge nudge count that's played ball so often that he knows all the signals by heart and can steal a few bases before we even know what's going on. He's fluent in smooth talk, and we know that ours isn't the first bed he's been in, or the last. Most Filipinas have had their fair share of nocturnal need fulfillment, but it was probably a pretty straightforward encounter without all the bells and whistles. So when you step into the batter's box, relax and know that it's you we want to be with, not A-Rod. Although that would be a fun at that too. So now you know what kind of guys with Filipinas like, and armed with this knowledge, what could possibly go wrong? Well, let me know how it went in the section below. And I expect some really funny comments on this one. So don't let me down. I'll be back in just a few short days with something totally unexpected. Till next time, folks. Foreigners really do think Filipinas are attractive. And even when we have minor physical flaws like I do, I have a slight issue with my hands. Most men are willing to overlook it because of all the other wonderful things we offer. My new boyfriend doesn't mind a bit that I'm not perfect. He loves me for who I am. And you'll get to meet him in just a second. We're gonna have a romantic dinner at this fabulous restaurant. Speak of the devil, I was just talking about you. Have a seat. Try the bread. Want some, Jerry?
No, thanks. I'm just not hungry.
Well, at least drink the beer, I gotcha.
It's not a twist off.
You have a little something on your face.
I can get it.
No, you're missing it. It's higher. An eyelash. Make a wish.
I don't want to.
Make a wish.
Okay. Didn't come true.
Oh, the food's here. Don't you just love lobster? Jerry? Jerry? Was it something I said? If you think about it, I'm kind of like a Vulcan, using my calm, cool logic to address your concerns about life in the Philippines. And just like Mr. Spock, I'm a half-blood as well, with one foot in the East and one in the West, giving me the ability to meld with your mind on topics concerning the culture here. All that I ask in return is a thumbs up on this video, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the notification bell so you know when the next episode has been presented for your analysis. Oh, Jim, you're looking good today. Have you been working out? Oh no, palm far. Well, since it looks like I'll be busy for the next few hours, I suggest you view my other videos during my absence. Is that the captain's log? Are you gonna make an entry?